Welcome to the Leaders in Payments podcast, where we talk to C-level leaders from across the payments landscape. We'll be discussing the products and services that impact the payment space today, as well as trends and predictions for the future of payments. We will also hear stories from our guests about their journeys to the top.
What's interesting is that the Fintech industry has changed dramatically over the last 10 years, beyond all recognition. But the events that serve the industry, they're still the events that were launched 10 plus years ago. So we came in with an entirely new proposition that put the attendee and the sponsor and the exhibitor right at the heart of the experience. So how do we do that? What we use is technology. And this is the crucial difference, but it's technology that creates incredible value for everybody.
That was John Lear, the president and co-founder of Fintech Meetup, and he is my special guest on this episode 256 of the Leaders in Payments podcast, and I'm your host, Greg Myers. Fintech Meetup is a groundbreaking event that will be held March 3rd through the 6th, 2024 at the Venetian in Las Vegas. John and I talk about the powerful technology they leverage, the meetings program, the co-located event program, and much, much more. We've got a great episode ahead, so let's get started. Hi, John. Thank you for being here and welcome to the Leaders in Payments podcast.
Thanks, Greg. Really looking forward to this. And yeah, great to be here.
Great. So let's go ahead and dive in. Let's talk about you a little bit first. So tell the audience a little bit about yourself, maybe where you grew up, where you went to school, where you currently live, a few things like that.
Yeah, for sure. So originally I'm from the UK, as you can probably tell by the accent, although a lot of people think I'm Australian. So yeah, originally born in the UK and then moved around a little bit. So started my career at P&G, but then moved out actually to Geneva in Switzerland. So I spent about 2-3 years there. And then moved to the US about 15 years ago, where I kind of discovered this whole thing called Fintech, which was this really new emerging area that has obviously boomed and is so exciting and such a huge industry now. So I moved out to the US, lived in New York, and recently my wife, Meredith, and my son, Henry, who's 3.5, we moved out to Connecticut. So we live in Connecticut and in the office in New York.
Great. Well, tell us about your journey to your role there as president. Maybe walk us through your professional journey and, how you got to Fintech Meetup, and that'll get us started into the meat of it.
Yeah. I guess the first thing to say is I never in my wildest imagination ever thought I'd end up in the events business. But it's one of the most exciting industries, particularly being in the fintech events space, that I've ever experienced. So I started off my career at Procter & Gamble as a brand manager. And a fantastic organization. It really gives you some great insights around consumer understanding, how to market things, thinking about strategy. So my first brand was actually Pampers Nappies, or Pampers Diapers, as we'd say over here. It's a huge business in the UK, and then worked on a range of other different products and consumer products. And then latterly moved out to Switzerland to run beverages business, which was things like Sunny Delight and Folgers Coffee. P&G decided we're going to get out of the beverage business. And then at the same time, I came across this little company in the UK. It's about 15 years ago. It was called Earthport. And it was doing this kind of incredible thing called cross-border payments. And I had no background in payments, didn't really understand anything about it. But I was really, really captivated by it. It seemed to have some great technology, some great relationships around the world. And it kind of struck me that this whole thing of moving money cross-border around the world was really going to start to hit a tipping point. And 3 things kind of stood out for me. The first was global migration. People were just moving around from country to country a lot more and therefore needed to move money a lot more. The second thing was the growth of e-commerce, the ability to buy in one country, ship to another. Again, how you move those funds. That was a huge, huge trend that I was seeing. And then the third thing was just generally globalization and the whole cross-border commerce piece. So I looked at it and thought, wow, this is an amazing sector to be in. And this is a really interesting company. But the one problem was, Greg, that they weren't in the US at the time, which is obviously the world's biggest market by GDP, biggest cross-border market. So what I did was I packed a bag, bought a one-way ticket, moved to not a great hotel in Chelsea in New York, and basically just started to get really networked into the payment space. And fintech at that time was just starting to get going. So I built that business up from originally it was just me in the US. We ended up with about 30 people in the US, about 200 people globally. And then we took the business from about $1 million of revenue to 40 million over the next decade, raised about 150 million in capital over subsequent rounds, successive rounds. And then we eventually exited that business to Visa, and Earthport became effectively the engine behind what is now Visa Direct. That was great. And I just had such a unique opportunity and insight into how do money transfer companies think about moving funds and making payments, and, what are e-commerce platforms? How do they think about distributing funds that they've accepted from one currency in one country to another? So it was just absolutely fascinating. And one of the big things that I got a lot of exposure to was how do banks move money? Thinking about some of the legacy incumbent ways of using correspondent banking and traditional wire mechanisms. And we were able to come in with a whole new solution. And I think we ended up signing about 12 out of the top 15 global banks, which for a fintech at the time was pretty incredible. So they exited that business to Visa. And then I joined JP Morgan Chase and ran the Fintech Partnership Investment and Network Group there, which was really the other side of the transaction. So I'd done the fintech piece. Hey, how do you partner with other fintechs and banks? And then as a bank, how do you bring fintechs into the company to help, enrich, augment products, services, and solutions to deliver new and better capabilities to our customers? And that was terrific. I think we onboarded about 20 plus partners around the world, stood up some acquiring capabilities in Asia, launched a whole low value clearing solution globally. And it was great just to get that, very regulated financial institution. And then the pandemic came, and we just had my now nearly 4-year-old son, Henry. And, I'd always wanted to go back and do something a little bit entrepreneurial. And I took a call from Anil Agarwal. People will probably know Anil from many different things, but he's most well known for founding Money 2020 about 10 years ago. And we were both talking about the event space and fintech and what was going on. And we both came to the conclusion that there was a really unique opportunity to create and launch a new fintech event for the next decade. What's unique about Anil and Simran, his partner and founder of Fintech Meetup, is that they've obviously got great relationships and experience and track record in fintech, but also they're incredible event entrepreneurs as well. So they founded Money 2020. They then founded Shop Talk, which is the biggest retail event globally, and then other events as well, like Grocery Shop. So it's just really, really unique set of circumstances. And I think it came together really well. Background in fintech, the event entrepreneur angle as well. So we launched Fintech Meetup in 2021. We did 2 virtual shows. And then we just have done our first in-person show at the Area in Las Vegas in the March just gone. And Greg, it's been a phenomenal success, and I'm sure we'll get into the details of it. But it's been a really, really exciting journey. And I think one of the things that I'm really, really energized about is that being in the event space, you get to see and have some great conversations with everybody across the whole ecosystem. Our name is Fintech Meetup, and it's fintech's in the name, but we really service the banking, payments, fintech, and lending ecosystem. So it cuts across everything. And, just having some conversations with some incredible organizations and incredible leaders, it's been one of the most exciting and biggest highlights of my career so far.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I didn't know all that background about you and how you got involved in the event side. So I appreciate you sharing that. So for maybe the audience members who don't know much about Fintech Meetup, give us sort of the 50,000 foot level, the basics of what it is.
The thing that we are so excited about with Fintech Meetup is that it meets a massive need in the market that just isn't being met at the moment. And I think the testament to that, Greg, is that we came out of our in-person show in March and we came out with an NPS of 53. So what does that mean? It's actually the highest rated event that the team has ever launched, ever in their track record and history. Better than Money 2020, better than any of the other events. And there's a real reason for that, is that, when you step back and we think about the fintech industry, the industry has evolved so dramatically over the last decade. When I got involved in fintech, it was really about, a bit about acquiring, card issuing. There was some cross-border payments. How do you optimize for global remittances? That was 10 years ago. We did a piece of work as part of launching Fintech Meetup to try and identify all the different categories of services and solutions. And we came up with 130 plus. They cover everything from remittance, from acquiring to issuing to core banking technologies. Then you've got things like data and analytics, AI, channel solutions. It just covers everything. And obviously more recently includes things like artificial intelligence, which is incredibly exciting. So we stepped back and we said, what's interesting is that the fintech industry has changed dramatically over the last 10 years, beyond all recognition. But the events that serve the industry, they're still the events that were launched 10 plus years ago. So we came in with an entirely new proposition that put the attendee and the sponsor and the exhibitor right at the heart of the experience. So how do we do that? Well, what we use is technology. And this is the crucial difference, but it's technology that creates incredible value for everybody. We kind of joke that it seems strange that we're in the fintech financial technology space, but very few event organizers really use technology to really help attendees and sponsors and exhibitors deliver upon their objectives. So what we did is we stepped back and we said, what is the number one thing people have for going to events? Well, it's all about connectivity, and it's all about conversations, and it's all about creating opportunities. So if you're a C-level individual, chief executive, chief product officer, you want to go and have meetings with exactly the right people at exactly the right organizations that can help you meet your objectives. And they could cover everything from, hey, I want to go and meet the media. I want to go and get my story out there. Maybe I want to go and talk to investors. As a chief product officer, I want to go and meet other organizations, learn what products and services and solutions they've got. As a partnerships person, who should I be partnering with across the ecosystem who can help me achieve my objectives? And then obviously there's the sales, business development, and relationship management. How do I create those opportunities to advance my commercial agenda? So what we did was we said, this is all about creating conversations and creating opportunities for people so that they get maximum ROI from attending events. So what we did was we built an incredible team, 50 outstanding engineers, and we've built this platform that enables everybody to connect with everybody else at scale across every imaginable use case that I just described. So the meetings program that we do at Fintech Meetup, which is a core part of our show, it enables, as I say, everybody to connect with everybody else. At the last event in March, we scheduled 30,000 meetings with everybody. And people were just completely blown away, whether it's some of the world's biggest banks identifying new partners that they're already implementing into their solution, whether it's some of the smaller fintechs getting investment from other VCs and investors. It just blew everybody away to the extent that people came out of Fintech Meetup going, this is the event that really understands our industry, fintech, banking, payments, and lending, and is really the one event that you're going to go to achieve your objectives with incredible ROI. So it takes some imagination to think about 30,000 meetings taking place, but the energy in the room, the connectivity is just incredible. And we'll schedule about 50 to 60,000 meetings at the next Fintech Meetup, March 3rd to the 6th, 2024. But that's a key thing. We help people achieve their objectives.
Okay, so let's talk about it first from an attendee perspective, and then we'll talk from a sponsor or exhibitor perspective. So from an attendee perspective, what do they get out of it? What's the value in the attendee going? I know you explained a little bit of it just then, but maybe go a little deeper on what the attendee really gets out of it.
I've talked about the meetings program, and it is the world's largest fintech meetings program. That's obviously a core part of what we do. We have 3 hours of meetings on the Monday, 3 hours of meetings on the Tuesday. All the meetings are 15 minutes. They're all what we call double opt-in. So you want to meet with individual A, and individual A wants to meet with you. So very, very high quality meetings. But Fintech Meetup is not just about meetings. It's a full show and it's a full event experience. So it takes place from Sunday through to Wednesday. We have 175 plus incredible speakers. We just started to announce some of our keynotes. They include Zach, CEO of Plaid, Matt Harris, from Bain Capital Ventures, probably the most well-known VC in the space. So we have a full agenda that covers all the latest topics and issues affecting and driving the industry. So that's one thing. We have a very, very high quality threshold when it comes to content and speakers. So we're really excited about that. So Fintech Meetup is the place where you're going to learn not just from people that you meet as part of our meetings program, but also as part of our content that we deliver as well. We also have, obviously, exhibit hall, 350 plus sponsors. There's going to be so many different co-located events and activities happening. And we'll talk about that in a second, because we think that's one of the most exciting things for the whole industry. But really, for attendees, Fintech Meetup is the one place that you'll go to jumpstart and kickstart your whole year and achieve your objectives, that you'll then go and follow up and you'll execute on those meetings and those conversations and those opportunities you created. So it sets you up for success for the rest of the year. And Greg, that's one of the reasons that we deliberately chose Q1 and the spring, because people want to get going in the year, and March is the perfect timing to do that. Create these opportunities, have these great conversations, then go execute on them for the rest of the year, and then come back the next year and we're going to do it all again.
Yeah, I love the timing for sure. Well, let's now talk about it from the sponsor or exhibitor perspective. So what's the value they get from it?
I think, Greg, the word that you use there is so important, which is value. You know, we are so focused to an extent that it drives out every decision that we make on how do we create and demonstrate return on investment for our sponsors, exhibitors, but also for attendees. In fact, for everybody who's involved in Fintech Meetup. We think that, you know, obviously where fintech is at the moment in the industry generally, you know, people are watching their budgets. They're cost conscious. So the events that are going to win long term are going to be the events that can prove that they were actually able to deliver tangible results and meaningful ROI. So that's a big part of what we do. So how do we do that? Well, obviously the meetings program that we do is just critical to that. You know, the old way of going to a show, you'd try and get an attendee list. You'd figure out, okay, who do I want to meet on this attendee list? It's probably an old Excel file that's gone around the industry. Or you get a tatty piece of paper from somebody you meet in a bar or a restaurant. Mm-hmm. It just goes to demonstrate that events just haven't evolved. So obviously with the meetings program, you get to see everybody who's coming to Fintech Meetup. You can use the platform then to interrogate, search, filter, tag across probably about 180 different data points. Hey, I want to identify all of the C-level individuals responsible for product that have BaaS solutions or whatever it might be. So you can get very, very specific about who you're going to meet and who you want to meet with. So that's one thing. It just is a much more efficient process. But really the promise of Fintech Meetup is that before you even get on a plane to Las Vegas to go to an event, you're going to know exactly what your schedule is. You're going to have your calendar stacked with meetings with individuals who want to meet with you and you want to meet with them. And that is, it sounds so basic, Greg, but it's a massive fundamental paradigm shift for the industry. You know, we've had large teams from some of the biggest fintechs and banks in the world. Even before they got on a plane to Vegas, they've got 300-400 plus meetings across a team of 20, 30 people. And coming out of Fintech Meetup, they were able to say that it was their single best, most successful event. And that one bank in particular said that their whole partnership pipeline is full for the next 12 months. They actually can't do anything more. They've got so many incredible fintechs and conversations and opportunities going. So that's just, sounds incredibly simple and basic, but it's one way that we are really focused on delivering value for the industry and for sponsors and exhibitors. Obviously, the other thing is that everything we do, we can very, very competitively priced. There should be no price-based reason why anybody shouldn't go to Fintech Meetup. Because, you know, we do think that a lot of events have become very expensive. And when you put that in the context of actually declining ROI, it becomes a real challenge. So we really partner very deeply with event organizers at the sponsoring and exhibiting companies. But the thing that I think what I'm most excited about is we're constantly thinking about what else can we do to serve the industry? How can we help sponsors, attendees, speakers achieve their objectives? And the thing that I'm most excited about is the launch of what we call co-located events and activities at Fintech Meetup. I could probably talk about this, Greg, for hours and hours. So I'll keep it really, really simple. But again, it's using technology to solve a decades-old problem that has affected the whole event space generally, but specifically in fintech. So just to give you an example, most event organizers, whether it's in fintech, banking, and payments, they don't want anybody else to do any other events around their show. Their focus is on their show, and that's just the way it's always historically been. Our view is that we want to be this incredible partner to everybody in the ecosystem, and we want to empower and enable them to achieve their objectives. So what we realized is that a lot of organizations, they like to do their own events around the main fintech show. It might be a happy hour, might be private networking dinner. Maybe they want to go and do some activation or client appreciation. So the normal process that they go through to do this, and event organizers will find this, they'll probably be laughing when they listen to this, is that, again, they try and get an attendee list. They'd say, look, now I've got to go get a venue. Then I've got to go through and I've got to identify, okay, who do I want to invite to my happy hour or my executive networking dinner? Then I've got to probably throw up an Eventbrite page. I've got to have somebody to manage that. I've got to send out invites. I've got to manage the RSVPs. I've got to manage the food and beverage, the venue. It becomes a huge project in and of itself. So we looked at it and said, this is crazy. We want everybody across the industry to do whatever they want to do at Fintech Meetup, and we're going to make it really simple by using technology. So just like the meetings program, you'll be able to go into the platform as a sponsor or exhibitor. You'll be able to create and list your own event. Again, we're going to open up the whole platform. And then let's say you're a bank and you want to invite your top customers in a particular segment. You'll be able to go through and say, look, I want to identify all these C-level individuals, these kind of organizations with these kind of responsibilities. And then Fintech Meetup will take care of the rest. So the invites go out, manage the whole RSVP process. We'll even help lock down venues and locations for you. So really the only choice that you need to do as an event organizer, as a sponsor or exhibitor, you need to decide really three things. The first is, who do I want to invite? How many people do I want to invite? And then what do I want to be on my menu or food and beverage? And we'll take care of the rest. The feedback that we've had from the industry, it is just mind-blowing. Everybody says, wow, this solves such a huge issue. But what's more exciting, I think, for us is it's another way that we can help everybody in fintech, banking, payments, and lending achieve their objectives, and how we can help be the glue that really brings the whole industry together. Because the industry that we operate in, it's changed so dramatically over the last 10 years. It's become ever more complex, ever more intricate. So using technology, we just really simplify and crystallize and just get people to achieve whatever goals and objectives they have from a sales, marketing, messaging, strategies perspective. So we're really excited about it. And the feedback has been incredible so far.
That's great. So you've talked about the use of technology. You've talked about the meeting program. You just talked about the co-located events. All of those things make what Fintech Meetup does different from other events in our industry. What else is there that's different or makes you guys unique?
Yeah, obviously I've talked a lot about technology today. I think the one thing is you can have great technology, but if you don't have the right community that uses that technology, then it's all for nothing. That's one of the things, Greg, that we really focus incredibly hard on, which is we are what we think is very flexible, entrepreneurial. We never say no. We want to be seen as the partner that will help you do whatever you want to do. So that's one thing. It's just part of our kind of DNA and philosophical mindset, which is we never say no. Tell us what you want to do. We're going to help you achieve it. So that's one thing. But the other thing that I think is really important is, the whole founding team, we've all been owner-operators, fintechers, bankers, combination of both. So we just have this incredible set of really supportive relationships right across the industry. So we're able to really curate and bring together the whole ecosystem. And that's where the magic happens. You get the right people together with this incredible technology, and you can just make magic really happen. And then finally, the one standout thing for me that I think, again, is mind-blowing, just like the meetings program, just like the co-located activities and events, is what we call our hosted program. So typically, or certainly in my experience, when you go to a lot of events, if you go to fintech events, you normally find it's fintechers talking to fintechers. You go to banking events, It's bankers talking to bankers. The reason we started Fintech Meetup is, one, we think the industry needs a new event for the next decade. But two, we believe that the next huge wave of innovation is only going to happen if we get bankers and fintechers in the same room, at the same show, at the same venue together. So what we did is we launched our hosted program. I think it's absolutely incredible. So basically, for any individual from any financial institution, irrespective of size, it could be the smallest community bank, it could be a credit union, it could be one of the top 10 global banks or super regionals. Doesn't make any difference. Any individual who is responsible for evaluating fintech technology solutions services, what we do is we actually give them a free ticket to come to the event. It's valued north of $3,500. And we'll give them a $750 travel allowance to come to Fintech Meetup. Now, the quid pro quo of that is that they go into our meetings program so that they can get the opportunity to meet with other solution providers and everybody else across the industry. The feedback we've had from the banks is, wow, this is incredible. Somebody's actually listened to us, because their challenge is that there are so many different functions in these financial institutions that should be getting exposed to fintech solutions and services. You know, people from regulatory and from compliance, legal, every part imaginable, payments, operations, technology. All of these individuals should be going to events, fintech events. The reason we created the hosted program is we want all those people to come, because those are incredibly important stakeholders for the whole industry. And we just said, look, what we're going to do is we're going to lower the barriers for them coming. We're going to make it a no-brainer, because then the whole industry benefits. The banks benefit, financial institutions benefit, and the fintechs benefit. And most importantly, the industry benefits, because everybody's talking, collaborating, connecting, creating opportunities. So we're really, really excited about that.
Awesome. That's an awesome program too. So where do you see Fintech Meetup heading in, say, the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, I think we're the show, Greg, now that just has so much buzz about it, and everybody is so excited. You know, people have really reacted incredibly well, and people talk about it being the next big or the new big fintech event. So we've got some really exciting plans. You know, one of the announcements you might have seen a few months ago is that one of the events that we have a long-standing admiration for, Fintech Nexus, we struck a partnership with Fintech Nexus. And for those that don't know, Fintech Nexus, great event, founded about 10 years ago. They're transitioning their sponsors and exhibitors and attendees to Fintech Meetup because of the very unique, incredible proposition, the meetings program, technology, the community. That was great. That happened really, really quickly. So we're building scale on that side. And we have a great relationship with Bo and Peter from Fintech Nexus, and doing lots of other things with them as well on the media side. So that's one thing. And then I think just generally, we're building new capabilities all the time. We're listening to people. We're talking constantly to sponsors and exhibitors. So we're going to be doing a lot of product enhancements, new services, new solutions to really constantly drive this ROI benefit for everybody. And then we're looking at all sorts of other things as well. So, you know, looking at different geographies, regions. There's just a huge global demand and opportunity for what we've created with Fintech Meetup in North America. And, you know, there's some really exciting regions that would just benefit tremendously from what we're doing.
Well, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about you. So tell us some things you're passionate about, maybe a business-related passion and a personal passion.
I'll start with the personal passion, which actually leads into business a little bit. I live, breathe, sleep Formula One, absolutely Formula One nut. But I will say I started watching it with my father as a 6-year-old, and I think we've seen pretty much every race from the age of 6. And it was just part of our family tradition. You'd come back on a Sunday, you'd have a roast dinner in England, and then you go every Sunday at 1:00, the Formula One racing would start. You know, the reason I'm so passionate about it is it's not just cars going around a track. It's just pure peak performance in every single part of the whole sport, right from designing and engineering to, you know, the obvious manifestation of that is the pit stop. How on earth do people change tires in 2.4 seconds, get them back out on the track? It's incredible. And I think those lessons can be applied to business, you know, precision, thinking through strategy. And there's some great books around that. So, you know, one of my big heroes as a driver was Ayrton Senna, who's a Brazilian multiple world champion. I remember as a 15-year-old at the European Grand Prix in Donington in England, where I lived, it was torrential rain. Of course it was, it's England. But he went from 7th on the grid to first position on the first lap. Never seen anything like it. It was sublime. It was like watching the best orchestra conduct the most amazing music, the finest artist. It was just incredible and it stuck with me to this day. And then on the business side, a guy that I've done a lot of reading about and I find hugely inspiring is Toto Wolff, who's the chief executive and co-founder and co-owner of the Mercedes Benz Formula One team. You know, his philosophy on life is just incredible, but how he applies the sporting insights of Formula One to running a 1,200 person organization that, you know, serves only to win races on 26 tracks around the world, 52 weeks of the year. It's incredible. And that's why, you know, they've won 8 consecutive world championships, most successful team. It's just incredible. So Formula One is my thing, but we'll have to go to a race together one day, Greg.
Oh, that would be amazing. So obviously you've had a background for quite a while in this whole fintech payment space with Earthport, JP Morgan, and now obviously with what you're doing now. So if someone came to you and said, "Hey, this is a hot industry. I want to get involved." Maybe they're coming right out of college or university, and they said, "John, what would your advice be to me? I want to be successful in this industry." What would you tell them they need to do to be successful?
Yeah. Firstly, Greg, I just want to pick up on one thing you said, which was, "Hey, this is a hot industry." You know, there's a bit of a narrative out there that, you know, fintech has done all the innovation. There's not much more to do. You know, some people have their heads down, you know, hung low. I think you're right, Greg. I don't think we've even really started getting going yet in fintech. And at Fintech Meetup 23, I interviewed on the main stage Steve McLaughlin. And Steve's view is very similar to mine, which is we've probably solved 10, 15, 20% of the challenges around payments, banking, lending. So I think fintech has this incredible opportunity, and I think it's the most exciting industry that anybody could want to go into. Sure, it's got its challenges. We'll work through them. We'll come back out the other side in a much stronger position. So, you know, my advice would be, firstly, you're definitely entering the right industry. My advice would be go have as many conversations with as many people as you can. You know, come to events like ours if you want to. But, you know, you can network with people online, reach out to people on LinkedIn. One thing I found, Greg, is that fintech is one of those rare industries where actually people really want to help each other. And it's very collaborative and it's very supportive and people are very generous with their time. So go out, have those conversations, ask those naive questions, because what you think is naivety, actually nobody else has thought about asking that question. I remember when we first struck a partnership with Stripe many, many years ago. This is when Stripe was a lot smaller. There was a guy there who's probably 23, 24, great engineer. And when we were presenting our solution at Earthport, he just kept saying, "Well, why do you do it like that? Why do you think like that? Why do you engineer it like that?" And that's the power of just asking the questions that nobody else wants to ask or is scared to ask. So yeah, definitely get involved in fintech. Go talk to as many people as possible. There are some incredible organizations out there. And also go talk to VCs, talk to the associates and analysts of VCs and investors. You know, they have their finger on the pulse, what's hot, which organizations are worth talking to. And of course, you know, I'd be more than happy if anybody ever wants to talk about fintech or Formula One. Love to spend time on that with them.
Awesome. Well, John, we've covered a lot of ground so far, obviously about you and your background, Fintech Meetup, the industry. I think we've had a great session so far. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up the show?
No, other than really 2 things. Firstly, Greg, thank you so much for having me on here. You know, big fans of what you do for the industry and for the community. You know, the interviews that you do are terrific, and I think it adds so much value and education and substance to our community. So thank you to you. And then the second thing is, look, we'd love to see everybody at Fintech Meetup. If you're in a bank, apply for our hosted program. If you want to have a conversation with us, feel free just to reach out. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. We'd just love you to come and join us. It's going to be an incredible event.
Great. Well, John, again, thank you so much for being on the show. I know your time's very valuable, so I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much, Greg. Really appreciate it.
And to all you listeners out there, I thank you for your time as well. And until the next story.
Thank you for joining us this week on the Leaders in Payments podcast. Make sure you visit our website at leadersinpayments.com, where you can subscribe to the show and where you'll find our show notes. If you enjoyed listening, please share on your social channels as well.